Okay. All right. And I'm going to hand things over to Justice Botsford to begin.
Good afternoon. Yes, it's 12:02. So you're lucky that this is on Zoom because I just got sent home from babysitting for my grandson because I have a cold. So you're not going to get infected, but but I may have to cough, so excuse me. So thank you all. I can't see how many are here, 14. And I think there's more who signed up and that maybe aren't here, but I just wanted to welcome you and thank you for participating in this. I chaired a study committee on lawyer well-being that the SJC started in 2018. And the committee had lawyers from every branch of practice, including judges, but public, private, corporate, in-house, large firms, small firms, solos. And so it was a very representative group. And one of the recommendations that everybody and each of them had a kind of study committee of their people that practiced in the same kind of work that they did. Everyone made individually and joined with each other in recommending the critical importance of mentoring to the practice of law. Both, I will say, certainly for the person the mentee, if you will, but I would add, having begun a judicial mentoring program back in 2008, what we found was it was even more important for the mentor judges because they got so much out of it. In any event, everybody thought that this was critical for lawyers, whether you're new to practice or not new to practice. And so I'm glad that you are joining this because maybe that is a sign that you would agree. And that's both mentors and mentees. But two other points. The first is that this program is different from certainly what I grew up with as mentoring, which is you have a mentor for life. Well, not quite, but you've got a single mentor, or maybe you've got two people and they kind of guide you in whatever you need. And you can go to them, and that's all very nice. But it's also kind of limiting in that if the mentor was a lawyer, usually lawyers practice a certain kind of law. And if you had questions that didn't relate to either that area of law or that related to other aspects of practice, like how do you set up a firm? And maybe this is a person in the public sector, it wouldn't work. So what this program does is it's like speed dating for mentoring. You can, I'm not advocating speed dating, but maybe like that. But in any event, you can meet with a mentor once on a particular issue or a problem or concern, and then you have a different issue or problem or concern, and you look at the list of mentors and you pick somebody else. Now, the advantage of that is it really expands the universe of types of assistance that mentees can look for. And for mentors, it offers, if you are practicing in a particular arena, it offers you a way to connect with a lot of people who are also in that area or certainly have questions about it. And there's just such a psychic value in being able to answer people's questions and work with people, particularly if they're doing the same kind of work that you are. So there are lots of advantages, but one potential disadvantage is that you don't really establish a relationship. And one of the things I just want to encourage you as part of this, that the fact that you speed dated with one particular person, or if you're a mentor, one particular person speed dated with you, doesn't have to mean that you don't have any relationship after that. I mean, if there is a real connection between you or a continuing set of issues that fits where you both are engaged in, I would just encourage you to think of this as a flexible model that allows speed dating, but it also allows for longer relationships to develop. And my last point, one of the reasons that I'm excited about doing this is that it is is meeting one of the goals of our study of issues that really interfered with lawyer well-being. But also, it's a way of connecting. And I think that one of the lessons that I think people learned in the pandemic is just loneliness is a huge issue. And this is a way to actually, work against that. And so for all those reasons, I really hope you participate, you enjoy it, and you profit from it. The last point, at the end of this time, and Heidi will say how long it is, you're going to be asked to evaluate what the experience was like, whether you're a mentor or a mentee. And I hope you will do that and do it honestly, because I think this is one of the Standing Committee on Lawyer Wellbeing's most important initiatives, and it can only get better if people are honest about what they thought and make suggestions, etc. So thank you for listening, and I'm going to turn it back to Heidi.
Thank you, Justice Botsford. So thank you all for joining us here today. And I know you probably are sick of hearing from me at this point. I know we all get way too many emails. Some of the feedback we got from last year's program was that we actually were not in touch enough. And that may be maybe only for mentees, but I think also we received that feedback from mentors as well. So I'm going to try to do a better job actually checking in on how the program is going and whether your mentees are actually scheduling those meetings with you. But I promise I will try not to be a burden on your time, as I understand how busy people are. So I am seeing a lot of mentors here today. And again, we really appreciate your volunteering for this program. I will be sending out this recording to everyone that is participating in the program. We have about 50 mentors, and we have over 100 mentees signed up to participate in the program. So I am hoping that they will all book sessions, and I know not all your sessions have been booked if you're a mentor yet, but we will continue to encourage people to book those sessions. And so, as Justice Botsford talked about, this program is a bit different from the other programs you participated in. It's really about this concept of micro mentoring or episodic mentoring or speed mentoring or 60-minute mentoring. Those are all different terms for it. The program runs from April to December. And following the program, we will ask for your feedback, and the feedback from last year was very, very helpful in order to make some tweaks to improve the program. So we hope to continue to do that. If you have feedback during the course of the program, please feel free to reach out. I would love to hear that feedback. So this type of mentoring has actually been around for a while. There is Amy Timmer, who is the Associate Dean of Students and Professionalism at WMU Cooley Law, and is also the founding member of the National Legal Mentoring Consortium, has written about this type of mentoring extensively, and how you can use the 60-minute mentoring in place of traditional matched pair mentoring programs. So like Justice Botsford talked about, it's not really meant to be grounded in this personal trust-based relationship. It really tries to create multiple opportunities for the relationships to form. It enables people to be exposed to multiple perspectives. And one of the things I think we hope it does is sort of give people a greater sense of connection to the legal community, both for mentors and mentees. Also to have mentors help improve mentee well-being and their ability to manage stress in their practice, to give mentees advice and guidance in substantive areas, and also help them gain confidence in practice and avoiding pitfalls. So those are some of the things we hope that the mentees will get out of it. We hope that mentors will get something out of the program as well. You should have all received instructions on how to log in and register for the program. Mentors have to complete a profile with your contact information, your biography, a LinkedIn profile if you have one, headshot, areas of practice, your county that you practice in. And what was new this year is we added bar affiliations. And so I'm just going to quickly share my screen so you can see this if you haven't already. I'm hoping most of you have accessed this. So here is the program. And I know I've sent this around a few times, but you can see here we have some information at the top, and then their practice areas and county of practice and affinity bar affiliation. And so what mentees can do is they can actually filter by this criteria. So I was actually speaking to the Women's Bar Association last night. And so what I did for them is I sorted by the criteria here, Women's Bar Association, and you can see everyone who is affiliated with the Women's Bar Association. So this is really helpful for mentees to sort by different criteria. You can sort by multiple criteria. So we could say Women's Bar Association and immigration practice. And here we've got one person. And then from here, if you click on the bio and sessions, you're going to see here's Nicole's bio, and here are all the different sessions. And you can see some are blacked out because they've already been booked, and then others you're able to select and book. Just a quick note on the session dates, as I have indicated in my email a number of times, the session dates are really there as placeholders. It is up for the mentee to reach out to the mentor and say, I booked a session with you. Let's find a date and time that works, okay? So you don't feel like you're locked into that specific date. And what happens in the system is if no one books, so for example, April 5th, if no one books this, what's going to happen next week is this session is actually going to roll over into another week, okay? So they're going to continue to roll over. These sessions are going to be available for people to book. So if someone has offered these 6 sessions and no one has booked them, then they're going to continue to be offered throughout the course of the program. And this is important because we have rolling admission into the program. So we will be adding new mentees throughout the course of the program. New this year, we have actually gotten rid of all criteria for mentees. So mentees are not only new lawyers, they also could be lawyers in transition, or maybe lawyers that are moving to a different practice. We're also working with the Board of Bar Overseers to make referrals to this program for attorneys who may be not rising to the level of discipline, but going through a diversion process and may just need a little extra assistance. So those people may come into the program as well. So we hope to, again, add more mentees. It is up to the mentees to reach out to you, okay, to the mentors. And you'll see up at the top here, there are a number of different resources. So how mentees and mentors connect. And if you go through here, there's some helpful information, how the program works. There's also a tips sheet that provides you with tips for mentees, tips for mentors. And so this is helpful in terms of thinking about what questions the mentee might want to ask, what you should be prepared to do as a mentor. Going back here, if I go back to my page here, if I go to mentoring matches, there's additional information, including this mentorship tips sheet, which actually provides specific questions that mentees might want to ask. So these are just suggested questions. So there's a lot of great resources in here. The mentees, when they book these sessions, when they're going to reach out, there's actually a template email in there. So if you're a mentee and you're ready to reach out, you've booked that session, you're going to reach out to your mentor, there's actually a template email that you can use to send to your mentor. So there's a number of different tips. I'm going to stop my my share here. And let me think if there's anything else I want to say. I think the most important things here again are that it's the mentee's responsibility to reach out. And so I'm going to continue to encourage mentees to make sure they are reaching out to you. Again, the sessions are just placeholders. So you can always, if that session no longer works for you, that's fine if you're a mentor. Just make sure that you connect with the mentee and figure out what date works best. And then finally, like Justice Botsford said, we will be conducting some evaluation. We'll send out a survey. Again, it was really helpful. And it was also helpful to hear from some of the mentors here in terms of, just challenges using the program or what their needs were. So if you need anything, I'm here to help. So please feel free to reach out. You should have my contact information. So I'm going to turn this over now to Christina Turgeon, who is on the SJC Standing Committee on Lawyer Wellbeing and was one of the members of this small working group that looked at a number of different mentorship programs and piloted this specific mentorship program out in Hampden County. And she organized that. And so she's had an opportunity to participate in this program a couple of times now. So I'm going to turn it over to her to sort of give you some tips based on her experience. So thank you, Christina.
Thanks, Heidi. Yes, I'm out in the wild, wild west. That's where Hampden County is. First, I want to thank all of our mentors and mentees for participating in this program. I can tell you that I've been practicing nearly 20 years now, and I still have many mentors. I'll call up a colleague and say, hey, what do you think about this? To bounce an idea off of somebody. And as a solo, I find that to be, completely invaluable. Just calling a colleague up and saying, what do you think about this judge? Or what do you think about this motion that I'm thinking of filing? Or, can I do this sense with you? So once you build that relationship with your mentor, I think, carrying through and having that be long-term is a great goal. So I certainly believe in the mentor-mentee experience. So when I was asked to participate in this pilot program, I certainly jumped at the opportunity. My experience was great, and I felt like I connected with my mentees, and I've even had additional contact with at least one of them beyond that initial mentor-mentee meeting. So I'm supposed to talk about, my experience with it, and I want to first say that getting started with it with Mentorship Rocket was super easy. As Heidi said, it's a matter of just inputting some initial information into the program. Navigating through that, as Heidi just showed us with her screen share, is very user-friendly, very full of information for both mentor and mentee. For me, I really just kind of made sure that I had a list of topics in case I wanted the mentee to kind of, navigate the meeting if they wanted to, but I had some follow-up questions just to jump in if there was a lull. You never know how the meetings can go. So, just as a mentor, I think, having that list of questions was very helpful. So after putting in, our initial information, after that, it's just a matter of selecting some dates and then coordinating that with the mentee. Each of my mentees sent me that introductory email, introducing themselves and asking if that date was good for me. Sometimes it was, sometimes it wasn't. So we just, sent an email back and forth to, solidify that date. It's, speaking of Zoom, that's kind of the way the world works nowadays. And I found that, when we did this pilot program, in the middle of the, pandemic, I thought that this program was much easier than some of the other mentorship programs that I had participated in. I think the technological advancements and the utilization of Zoom, and other online platforms facilitated a really smooth introduction, a smooth meeting. I always, ever since I was a young lawyer, I would, call up somebody and say, hey, I'd love to buy you a coffee, and we'd spend a half hour, 45 minutes at a coffee shop, kind of going over whatever was my, hot topic at the moment that was driving me crazy and causing stress and anxiety in my life. But I feel like with the Zoom platform, that it helped with the awkwardness of a mentee kind of trudging into a lawyer's office that they don't know, whether that's a small firm or a big firm, and that uncomfortableness, or meeting in a coffee shop and not knowing, who the lawyer that they're supposed to be meeting with is. And you walk in and there's, 10 other lawyers. And, I remember being that young lawyer kind of fumbling around, and I think this takes that away. So I enjoyed that piece of it. And I hope that doesn't go away. I know there's talk of, people having too much Zoom time, but I think in moderation, it certainly has its positives. So I really feel like I was able to make a difference in at least one mentee's career. This particular mentee had reached out to me and came prepared with very specific questions. They really wanted to know how to get a job. And I really didn't have the answer because everything was shut down during the pandemic. So, it wasn't that it was very easy for this person to, ask somebody to hire them when everybody was getting laid off because there was no work for anybody. But so we were able to kind of talk through her concerns, and I was able to provide various, paths that she could choose. And ultimately, she ended up getting involved in the Bar Advocate program, and I helped her navigate that process of, looking for a program and taking the Zealous Advocacy course. And she is now, I'm happy to report, employed by the Commonwealth as a bar advocate. So, that's the feel good that you get from these kinds of mentor-mentee relationships. The topics that my mentees wanted to discuss had such a wide variety, a wide range. Like I mentioned, one wanted to talk about, specifically how to get a job. Others talked about, they wanted to know how I became successful in my practice. And certainly I said that that's very, it's relative. Success means so many things, different things to different people. So, we kind of broached, what did success mean for this person and what were they looking for? And, trying to figure out, ways that I could, help this person become successful, whether that was, meeting other lawyers or, getting familiar with the judges so that they felt comfortable in the courtroom and knowing what, each judge's nuances were. And I think just by our sheer experience as mentors, we have a lot to share with these mentees, and they are very eager to, eat up that knowledge that we're willing to share with them. How to network with other attorneys. I can tell you that is completely different today, as I'm sure you all know, than when I first started out. We are networking in very distinct ways than we did before. We're not sitting in a courtroom, just observing lawyers practice law. We are not able to just go to a coffee shop really and say, hey, can I bounce this idea off of you? Bar association events have been, stale for a year and a half and are just starting now to come about and be lively again. And those are the sources of networking that I had. And so hopefully the world opens up again and we can get back to that type of networking. But I think just being, creative in how we advise the mentees is really going to be helpful for them. I found that most mentees had certain things that they wanted to talk about and that I would supplement the conversation with questions of my own. If it got stale, keeping the court professional, I feel like that's kind of gone by the wayside. You don't always see a lawyer in a suit when you go into court. And, I shared that, in my experience, people will pay for somebody who looks like a lawyer. You don't want to go into a meeting, dressed in jeans, because I don't feel like a client's going to want to pay you for your time if you don't look like a lawyer. So those are some of the things that I experienced with my mentees as I participated in the pilot program. And I'm certainly open for any questions, but I don't know if those are going to be held to the end. So I would defer to Heidi.
Great. Thank you so much, Christina. I think it's really helpful to hear how you've approached those sessions and mentorships. And I think also some great tips also for mentees as they think about approaching these sessions too. So what I'm going to do is I am going to move on to hear from Mala Rafiq and Ruth Adenka, and then we'll take some questions at the end since this is being recorded. All right. So Mala, I see you there right in the middle of my screen. So Mala Rafiq is another member of the SJC Standing Committee on Lawyer Wellbeing. And so she is going to talk a little bit about her experience as a mentor and some tips that she has both for mentors and mentees. Thank you, Mala.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being a mentor. I think that I was a mentor with the BBA for several years and I loved being a mentor, but I think that what I found was that for mentees, it was really hard to open up and it took a lot of time for them to feel comfortable talking to you about what was really bothering them. And so creating that level of trust was was significant. And I appreciate that a lot of you might feel like in this speed mentoring, you're not able to do that. You really are. The few things that I learned was you need to sort of establish that this is confidential right at the outset, because so many of the younger lawyers especially they feel as though anything they say, I was going to say, can be used against them. That is not what I meant, but will come back to somehow hurt them down the line. You know, you're older. Everybody here is incredibly well respected in the profession. You have contacts with people who are well respected. You know, judges. They feel like if they're truthful about what's going on in their lives, that what they say may just get out there. So establish that sort of confidentiality. Whatever you say to me, I'm here to help you. I think this is all information you know, but I really got the feedback we received was it just took a lot of time for me to say what's really bothering me. And for a lot of them, especially now, it's I can't get a job. I'm really unhappy in my job. For some people, it was I'm being treated really poorly in my job. I'm being treated really poorly by other lawyers. I don't know how to approach a judge about a problem. These sort of things that I still struggle with, actually, frankly, are the kind of issues that people really brought to mentors, especially people with a lot of experience. You know, how do I know when to say something and when to say it was something that came up a lot. The other thing was, can you introduce me to people to help me find a new job? There's a lot of I was surprised by how open, once you establish that confidentiality and once you sort of open it up to people once I shared my own experiences in the profession, I guess, sort of my own challenges and the fact that I still have these challenges, how open people really were and how much help people really needed. And I do believe that the whole goal of our committee is to create just a better, happier bar. And I think this is sort of an instrumental part of that. It just, I don't know if any of you were on the civility in the courts program last night, but so many of the issues that you're going to hear as mentors, and I heard as mentors, came up during that program yesterday, which was, you know, this general unhappiness in the profession because of how you're treated on various different levels. And so, you know, my biggest piece of advice is really to just ensure that that your mentor, your mentee believes and trusts you, believes that what they're saying to you is going to be confidential and absolutely trusts you. But thank you again for doing this. I can't think of anything really more important right now, especially.
Thank you, Mala. I think you're absolutely right that I think people are concerned that, you know, you can't build that trust in these types of situations with these small meetings. So I appreciate those suggestions. Those are great. So we'll move on to hear from another committee member, Ruth Adenka. Ruth.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. I echo the sentiments expressed by Mala and by Justice Bosford and Heidi and everyone else, and Christina, and thanking you all for taking part of this very important initiative. I think for me, as a first generation college student in law and attorney, and really first generation in being a professional in general in my family, not necessarily having those role models or mentors throughout my life was something that when I entered the profession and I began to try to navigate, you know, establishing those relationships and establishing and creating a network for myself, as well as including a network of mentors, I was very blessed with the amount of generosity and kindness that I had from a lot of different people along my path. And because of that, I feel it's a responsibility for me to give back and help uplift others. Particularly, you know, for me, my passion and my focus is on really uplifting communities of color and those kids or those generations that are in similarly situated positions as I was, because I know how difficult it was to overcome a lot of those barriers. For me, I think, some of the stuff that has been said, both by Christina and by Mala, with respect to really trying to identify, what is that impetus that's bringing this mentee to want to connect with us? Is it trying to identify what success is going to look like for them throughout their legal career? Is it going to be, trying to build relationships where they feel a connection of trust and security with individuals that are going to be sort of like guiding posts for them along their be it academic or legal journey? One of the things that I feel I learned, some time ago that was very helpful is that, mentors come in all different shapes and shades and areas, right? Only because I may be looking to explore the practice of domestic relations doesn't necessarily mean that someone in a different practice isn't going to be able to offer a perspective or golden nuggets that are going to help me implement those as I navigate, where it is that I'm trying to reach. And so I think that, for me, in terms of approaching mentorship, I usually will ask my mentees to identify areas that are either really important to them or areas that they want us to focus on, so that I have the opportunity in advance to try to prepare as much as I can so that I can, create a conversation or items of discussion during our time together to really be able to address those specific issues that they've identified are very important to them. And a lot of the times I find that, we have mentors for a lot of different things, right? Just like Christina mentioned, calling a colleague and bouncing ideas, that's huge, particularly if, you are in an area where you're either a solo or you're working in a small practice, or, you're dealing in an area where there's interdisciplinary connections of other areas of law. And so you want to have, a line of folks that you can contact for purposes of getting information or discussing or bouncing ideas off of those individuals whenever something novel comes up or confusing or difficult comes up. I think for me as a first generation college student and professional, it's also very helpful it has been very helpful, and I've derived a lot of benefits from mentors that have just genuinely pushed back and questioned, a particular line of thought that I may have had, or a particular course of action that I may have been considering, and really kind of, question, well, why do you think that's the best way? Or why do you feel that this is the path you want to go down, Ruth? And have you considered these other approaches? I think that those are all very important pieces to keep in mind as we're working with our mentees. Similarly, I think one of the other challenges has been, the logistics and actually coordinating. And I think Christina and Mala touched on this, particularly with the changes that have come about as a result of the pandemic. It's different. For me, I'm more of a people person. So I would prefer, to go in and meet with someone in person. But understanding that we're dealing still with a pandemic and there are still health risks that we need to bear in mind, I think offering that as an option is something that and also empowers them, right? Because at the end of the day, we're here to empower and support and uplift them in whatever way we can. And starting with something as basic as, do you have a preference for in-person or virtual, is something that's already giving them the autonomy to decide for themselves. And that's really important in any relationship. And so something as basic as that can go a long way, particularly for someone, who may be looking up to us and thinking that we're going to call all the shots. I've already received 2 emails from mentees, and have dates set up. So I'm writing back to them. Is there a time that's more convenient for you? Is in person or virtual preferable? Are there particular things that you have in mind that I should be thinking about as we prepare to meet? So some of these things that may not necessarily be rocket science, I think are really important in helping us really formulate a path in which we can offer the most meaningful contributions to the mentees we're going to be working with. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ruth. Those were some great tips. And, I just want to reiterate to Ruth in terms of what you talked about, how to prepare. And I think it is important both for mentees and mentors to prepare before these sessions. And one of the things that mentees can do is write out a list of questions. Another thing that mentees can do is actually send the mentor some information about them, whether it be a resume or maybe it's a LinkedIn. And if you're a mentor, you can ask for that information of your mentee. So those are just a couple of different things that you can do. And for mentees, I think also, great to listen, obviously asking follow-up questions, checking your assumptions and biases. Of course, we're not going to do a whole presentation here on biases, but thinking about those implicit biases that you may have. And then also offering to be a contact for future needs, and providing that contact information to your mentee is really helpful. So I'm going to open it up at this point to see if anyone has any questions, but if not, feel free to sign off. And again, we are happy to have you here. Thank you so much for volunteering, and we will be in touch, but we'll stay on for a few moments to answer questions.
Don't be shy.
If anyone also has, I meant to say, if anyone also has any other tips they would like to share, please feel free. I know there's a number of very seasoned mentors here. I should have said that before I told people they could drop off. Sorry.
Hey, Heidi, I have a question for you.
Sure.
And I'm sure you probably shared this, but so I know that today is the kickoff, but what is the timeline in terms of when the program concludes? Is there
it's through, so it's April through December, so that
Okay.
it will conclude the end of December. And then what we'll do is we'll send our survey out, we'll collect the feedback, hopefully tweak the program, and then we'll try to fill our mentors again, and do the outreach to mentees, and then do it again starting next April. That is the hope. So hopefully we will, if you're a mentor here, hopefully you will continue as a mentor. I know some of you participated last year as well.
Thank you, Heidi.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I know there aren't all that many people left, but I'm just wondering, in terms of the people who are here, if you are signed up as a mentee, if there are any, I'm just interested in what type of practice you have. Is it small, big, public, private? I'm just, it's just an interest to see.
We may not have any mentees on at this point.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I saw most of the people that participated in this, at least live, were mentors. So
Okay.
I'm going to send out the recording, and I'm hopefully the mentees will also watch.
Okay, I'm just gonna, since I'm not mute, I'm just gonna make one more point. I mentioned at the beginning that I had helped set up a judicial mentoring program a long time ago. And I mentioned that the mentors got more out of it, since everybody here is a mentor. I just want to reiterate that what we learned from them was it made them feel like it just added a dimension to their judging that was just priceless for them. I mean, it made them feel that they were better judges vis-a-vis the cases they had, as well as just the connections that they were making and feeling that they were helping, fellow judges. And so I'm for any of you who are just starting this, I do hope that that is the experience that you end up with, because I think the value may be greater for you than the people that you were talking with.
All right. Well, I'm going to stop the recording at this point. And